Hey everyone, Britta Albert here. If this is your first time here, I'm a spiritual transformational life coach. It's my goal for this channel to help you overcome the obstacles that are standing in the way of you living your best and most authentic life. This is video number 5 in the series Conversations with God. I hope you guys are enjoying this series so far, and if this is the first video that you've encountered in this series, I highly recommend that you go and check out the playlist of the rest of the videos 1 through 4 of Conversations with God. The way that I'm going through this series is chapter by chapter. Most videos, I go through 2 to 3 chapters. This video is different. This video, I'm only going to be covering chapter 16, which is a really short chapter. In the audiobook, it's right about 4 minutes long, but there's so much to unpack in this, and there's a fun parallel I wanted to include as well. So without further delay, chapter 16 of Conversations with God.
You make it sound so easy. And yet in the moment of decision, fear wins more often than not. Why is that?
You've been taught to live in fear. You have been told about the survival of the fittest, and the victory of the strongest, and the success of the cleverest. Precious little is said about the glory of the most loving. And so you strive to be the fittest, the strongest, the cleverest, in one way or another. And if you see yourself as something less than this in any situation, you fear loss, for you have been told that to be less is to lose. And so, of course, you choose the action fear sponsors, for that is what you've been taught. Yet I teach you this. When you choose the action love sponsors, then you will do more than survive. Then you will do more than win. Then you will do more than succeed. Then will you experience the full glory of who you really are and who you can be. To do this, you must turn aside the teachings of your well-meaning but misinformed worldly tutors and hear the teachings of those whose wisdom comes from another source. There are many such teachers among you, as always there have been. For I will not leave you without those who would show you, teach you, guide you, and remind you of these truths. Yet the greatest reminder is not anyone outside you, but the voice within you. This is the first tool that I use because it is the most accessible. The voice within is the loudest voice with which I speak because it is the closest to you. It is the voice which tells you whether everything else is true or false, right or wrong, good or bad, as you have defined it. It is the radar that sets the course, steers the ship, guides the journey, if you but let it. It is the voice which tells you right now whether the very words you are listening to are words of love or words of fear. By this measure can you determine whether they are words to heed or words to ignore.
You said that when I always choose the action that love sponsors, then I will experience the full glory of who I am and who I can be. Will you expand on this, please?
There is only one purpose for all of life, and that is for you and all that lives to experience fullest glory. Everything else you say, think, or do is attendant to that function. There is nothing else for your soul to do, and nothing else your soul wants to do. The wonder of this purpose is that it is never ending. An ending is a limitation, and God's purpose is without such a boundary. Should there come a moment in which you experience yourself in your fullest glory, you will in that instant imagine an ever greater glory to fulfill. The more you are, the more you can become. And the more you can become, the more you can yet be. The deepest secret is that life is not a process of discovery, but a process of creation. You are not discovering yourself, but creating yourself anew. Seek, therefore, not to find out who you are. Seek to determine who you want to be.
What do y'all think? When I first listened to this, I drew a parallel instantly. And I'm probably the only one on the internet to draw this parallel with Conversations with God. But I couldn't help myself from remembering that line from Talladega Nights.
Don't listen to these people, Ricky. You're a winner. You got the gift. Always remember, if you ain't first, you're last.
If you ain't first, you're last.
See you when you're grown up.
Dad! Come back!
Of course, good old Ricky Bobby, the child who grew up without a father, desperately wanting that love and acceptance. He based his whole life off of something that his father said to him one time. It's so impactful, the things that we pick up as kids, especially the things from our parents or from a loved one or somebody that we highly respect and admire. As well-meaning as they are, a lot of times when we're not listening to our inner guidance, our intuition, the voice that God gave us, the one He speaks to us through, it can throw our entire purpose off course. Because of course, if you watch the movie, later on in his life, we get this scene.
I did just like you told me. If you ain't first, you're last.
What the hell are you talking about?
Well, you told me that day at school for career day. You came in and you said, if you ain't first, you're last.
Oh, hell, Ricky, I was high when I said that. But that doesn't make any sense at all. First, you're last. You can be second, you can be third, fourth. Hell, you can be fifth.
So imagine that moment when you realize that the basis, the foundation of your entire belief system is not true. And there's something that each of us have been told, agreements that we have made, at least one, if not many, through our life, that we listen to the wisdom of the well-meaning misinformed. And when I say well-meaning misinformed, I'm literally taking the words from the book Conversations with God, as you heard them yourself. It is not to say that they are intentionally misleading. It is not to say that their judgment is in a place of hatred or condemnation. Many times it's coming from a place of love, as we've talked about before. If you peel back some of those layers of fear, at the base of fear is still love. Fear for your immortal soul. Fear for you to make the same mistakes that your parents made. Fear for you to have encounters with authorities. Fear that you're not going to fit into society the way that your family wants to. Fear, fear, fear. And ultimately, why is society or our parents or whatever, why are they fearful of us to have these kind of experiences? If it's not a reflection of them, let's take that out of the equation. They're fearful of you suffering in a way that they perceive is avoidable. So at the base of that is love. So that goes back into my last video, number 4, on this series, Conversations with God, where every decision, every reaction, every thought comes from either fear or love. Now here is what I love. It expands deeper on that, where you now get to choose. You now have the ability and the authority to choose in your life what you want to participate with. And how do you choose that? How do you make that distinction? Well, God already said it. Is it based in love or is it based in fear? So there is a page that I love to follow on Instagram and Facebook called A Werewolf. I don't know if you guys have seen A Werewolf before, but they just have some of the best little inspirational quotes. And the one that I saw recently, I really thought was just spot on for this. And it said, learn the difference between the sound of your intuition guiding you and your traumas misleading you. Now, how do we learn that difference? Just like I said, one is coming from fear, one is coming from love. And once you're able to get yourself out of that headspace of fear and you're able to look at them and really observe them almost scientifically, you take out emotion and you just look at not even just logically per se, but you're just looking at the two different thoughts and you're simply observing them and you're feeling into them. One of them is coming from love and one of them is coming from fear. And if it doesn't look like fear from the get-go, if it's not love, try to peel back those layers and see, does it come down to love? Or is it disguised as fear, but it still actually comes from a place of love? And if that is the truth, how can you reconcile the two? How can you remove the fear and retain the love? By understanding what it is, where it's coming from, and why. Again, oftentimes with our ego, another word for your inner monologue, the fear part of you that's meant to keep you alive, it is ultimately there to serve you, but simply like a helicopter parent sometimes holds you back from those experiences that are really rich for your life. Look at the intention of the ego and understand that it's always there to protect you. Its intention is always to protect you. And you get to decide as an adult, do you want to keep that? Or do you choose to let it go and trust your intuition and move forward with peace and joy and grace and love? You guys, thank you so much for being here. I hope this video resonated with you. Again, if it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with somebody who you think needs to hear this message today. Also, I would love to talk to you. Down below, I have a link where you can set up a free definition session where we can actually have a phone call for 30 minutes and really define what your best, most authentic life looks like. I can't wait to talk to you guys, and I will see you next time.